Best of r/entitled parents episode 37. A few months ago I was at my grandma's house with my EC and, kind of EA. I was playing on my PSVR, and EC wants to use it, which I'm completely fine with, but then when I want to use it she just says one more time, and for clarification, it was not one more time, so I keep asking for it until I start to get pee off. Also, if you were wondering, she was playing Roblox on her phone and decided that because the VR wasn't hers and was mine, it's gotta be more fun. I then, with a slightly angry tone, say, listen, get off, you've been using it for 3 hours and haven't let me use it at all. I want to play a regular game and actually play. Then she blatantly says no, even though the PS4 is definitely not hers. So I then really get angry and say that I'm going to move it if she doesn't let me use it. Then Key, kind of entitled aunt, comes and saying that EC deserves to use it all day because she never uses a PS4. My nice cousin has one which he lets her use all the time. EC also says that I probably use it too much and it's for your own good. I barely use it and can't play video games on the weekend. It's a family rule. Been around since my oldest brother got into video games. She then finally, after 4 hours, gets off. I then move the PS4 and start playing DBH. EC then demands that I go back to my house, which is a pretty long walk, to get the other controller and change it to Minecraft so she can play Minecraft. I say no, and then my mom says that I have to because sharing is caring. Maybe you should have effing said that to EC. I then go to my house to get it, come back, and keep playing DBH because she's back on Key's phone. Then she comes to me and says, and I quote, change it to Minecraft, my name. I deserve to play it. Then I say no because I'm in the middle of something. And then she goes to Key and tells on me for not letting her play. I then get grilled by Key and my mother. Then, they finally leave. I then play the PS4 for a little and then leave. This post probably won't get traction, but I haven't brought up to EC how entitled she always is. Thank you. Next. So a little backstory. So I was at my cousin's wedding, who I haven't met till today, and this happened about 2 hours ago. So me and my cousin, not the one getting married, get along really well, so being ourselves we did what we usually may do. So after we finished our meal we went for the desserts and no one was there. Then we were the first ones at the chocolate fountain. Then we decided to come back later and went to the ice cream area because it was ice cream. Cast, me, who am I? I'm Spider-Man. C, cousin, not getting married. M, entitled monster. A, Aunt K, M's kids, didn't notice them till later. M's sister, I think it was her sister she was entitled to. On to the story. So while we were waiting in line then M came along. M, why are you pushing in line? We were just completely confused because we did nothing and she was the one that pushed in. Me, to see, what is she complaining about? We did absolutely nothing. M, I'm not gonna let these small kids push in the line. BTW, I'm 13 and C is 12. Me and C don't even know what to do at this point. M, I'm gonna slap you both if you don't get to the back of the line. Me and C are now very annoyed by this lady, so then me and C talk to each other about what was really going on. So then C tells A about it when she is walking by. She asks us what happened, so we then explain to her. A just really wants to find this lady and tell her off. A, where is this lady now? Me, she was over there but she went. A, okay, can you lot go and find her? So we do so while A gets us ice cream. We found where she was and then tell A. C, mom, we found her. A gives our ice creams. I'm pretty sure M saw that. Were we telling A? Because next thing you know she's gone. So it then didn't really take us that long to then find her again. A then asks M and her entitled sister to come with her. M recognizes us, thinking that she will get away with it and that we will get in trouble. But was she wrong? A, so my boys tell me that you have been saying a lot of bad things to them. M, no, all I was doing was telling them that they were pushing and that they should get to the back of the line. A, well, apparently you said that you were going to slap them. M, looks to us. When did I say that? Me and C, you did. You said that you were going to slap us if we didn't go to the back of the line. M is looking worried. M's sister, well, maybe you should teach your kids some manners. They say that, and what about what they've done? A, I do teach them manners and they're well behaved. Me, to C, she's still trying to lie her way out of this. C, I know all this just because ice cream. M's sister, well, if you're that desperate maybe you should be a better mother. A, Come on, you don't talk like that to two boys and threaten them. Would I do that to your kids? No. Do you do that to your kids? Well no, because they're my kids. IA cuts her off. Well, explain to me why you would do it to mine. Looks defeated, and I'm sure that she left the wedding because we didn't see her after that and we're happy we didn't. Me and C are talking about what just happened, then we all eventually go home. TLDR. Threatens us when we do nothing. My aunt sorts her out. Well, hope Redditor sees this, and everyone who does, hope you have a nice day/night. Thank you. Next. My brother-in-law was telling me a story of his personal encounter of dating an entitled psychopathic woman. Now, this woman was pregnant and already had a kid from the first marriage. So, in a sense, entitled parent, I suppose. This happened several years back, so certain things might not be accurate, but it is told from his perspective. So, it took place somewhere in Southeast Asia, near where I was from. It happened back in 2006 while he was trying to be the settled down expat in a foreign country. He was living the time of his life until he met a woman in a bar. He described her to be well dressed, didn't come across as a sex worker or anything, and so he approached her. Now, their relationship lasted about 10 months. 3 months of courting her and the rest was her faking her pregnancy. The pregnancy is the key to this story. During the relationship, he'd endure her abuse. She'd punch him, kick him, scratch him, bite him, etc. She stole his laptop, his PlayStation, his phone, etc. Got his family's numbers to call and always played the victim card, accusing him of domestic abuse but never went to the police herself. All in all, my brother-in-law was isolated from others by her, really. A set for a toxic environment. Anyway, 3 months in and she said the condom broke because she got pregnant with his kid. During those 3 months, he was ready, more than ready, to leave her ass behind, and she knew that. She also knew he's a softie, so she pretended to be pregnant. He got excited. He went telling everyone and she was over the moon because she was getting the attention. Anyway, 5 months in and he'd always be cooking, doing things for her, because she said she couldn't do anything since she was pregnant. She couldn't even fix her own breakfast. Then one day, he made her a dish of rice and sausages with salad. She sat down to eat but she just threw the plate into the wall. She, evidently, got up to punch him, kick him, whatever abuse she could do to him. She thought that since she was a woman and was pregnant, she could do whatever, including stepping over the boundaries of domestic abuse, and he was the man who should be able to take it. He sent her flying into the cardboard door. He said himself he was not proud of what had happened, but he was provoked to no end and his boundaries were beyond stepping and stomping over. So he retaliated and went downstairs to call the police. The police came, talked to her, then got his side of the story. Then, according to my brother-in-law, he said the police straight up telling him she was pregnant and needed some TLC. I get it. Pregnancy is a bitch. A lot paint it as a beautiful experience, but it is also a bitch in the ass. Pardon my French. You know what they told me? He continued. They told me to take her to the finest restaurants. To any 5-star restaurants, not cooking for her because she didn't want that. She wanted to go out and eat these expensive foods every day. He shook his head. She wanted to get out of my apartment and book us a 5-star hotel with luxurious spa and shit like that. She basically abused me because I was not giving her the billionaire treatment because she was pregnant. So, the whole pregnancy, she thought she'd be treated like a queen. He already spent money on everything because, in her words, she couldn't work as she was pregnant. He spent his days both working in a foreign country and finding the time to groceries shopping and cooking for her. But no, it was not enough. She didn't want to do any chores or go out in the heat, because she was pregnant. Plenty of pregnant women that I know, including you capital replacement zero, work their asses off until they cannot any longer. She couldn't even walk or get up without needing any help because she was pregnant. She was not sick or bleeding like you did, dude. She was fine. I told her to go to the doctors but she wouldn't. It was insane. Then, some months later, around the 7th month actually, he was getting suspicious about her pregnancy. He asked her straight up if she was truly pregnant because she would still be going out every night getting drunk, while he explicitly told her to not do it because it had hurt the baby. He tested her urine by taking a sample from the toilet and it turned out she was not pregnant at all. Not at all. He then kicked her out. He got very upset at the end of this story. He explained how he was so excited to be a father, despite the crazy mother, and how he was preparing everything to make sure both of the baby and the mother were safe. As it turned out, she wasn't pregnant. He didn't have to deal with her any longer. He found out even more from her sister that she had been seeing other foreign men as well, not just him, and was getting money from them. He left her for good and she still harassed his family afterwards until she got a new victim. The end. TL. Dr. A single mother trying to trap my brother-in-law with her fake pregnancy. Thank you. Next. Context. My brother, his two friends and I walked together after school because our grandma's house was on the way to their house. This happened 4 or 5 years ago, so I don't remember everything she said. F. Friend. LB. Friend's little brother. T. My twin brother. K. A lovely whale. NL. Nice lady. LB took my book and ran to mess with me, so took off after him. After I caught up to him and took my book back, a car that had been passing by turned around, making her tires screech like it was Tokyo Drift or some shit. The wild Karen looked like she ate McDonald's for a living and had dyed red hair. She pulled down her window and started screaming about how I was stealing from LB and how if she ever saw us again she would call the police. She then proceeded to start cussing us out. LB was 9 and the rest of us were all 12, and going on about how we were hurting LB. T and F tried to explain that we were just messing around. K screamed no and to let LB explain and that we're bullying him. Even after LB told the whale multiple times that it was his fault and he stole my book, she refused to listen. After about 10 minutes of listening to her rant, I told them to run. After we started running, K yelled, "Why are you running if you have nothing to hide?" when NL told her to stop her bullshit and to stop traumatizing the kids. NL told T that we did nothing wrong and to keep on running. We ended up running past our grandma's house, so she didn't know where she lived, and F and LB ran home. Our grandma reported her to the police and we never saw her again. Thank you. Next. TL. Doctor at the bottom. Yes, this post has one. Some of you may have read my recent post about my entitled grandpa who was emotionally abusive to my lovely dad, who is, and will always be, absolutely amazing. For those of you that didn't read, my father's paternal family is full of entitled people who are proud of things they shouldn't really be proud of. This story has nothing to do with grandpa though, but rather my uncle, aunt, and cousin, who I'll call Louise, fake name. Their dad's brother, along with his wife and daughter. Dad's brother inherited all of grandpa's dishonest nature. My aunt and uncle are the entitled parents in this story. Last year, dad's maternal uncle died. I'll call him Uncle Norman, fake name. He was always dad's, and my favorite uncle. Uncle Norman was always really caring, really gentle, and had a great sense of humor and was always brilliant around kids. We traveled the 5 hours it takes to go to where the funeral was being held, only to see that aunt and uncle were there, but no Louise. Their excuse for Louise not being there was that she had been to too many funerals this year and that she'd been to 5, which is far too many for a young girl, who was 16 at the time. We later found out that no, she had not been to 5 funerals. She had been to 2. The 3 others were distant family members who had died, such as Louise's grandfather's sister's husband, whose funeral she hadn't been to. One of the funerals they included as one she'd been to was Uncle Norman's. While we were at the funeral, and she wasn't there, it's worth noting exactly how entitled they act around Louise constantly. Louise was born after my brother and me. My aunt had been told that she couldn't have children, so Louise was a bit of a miracle baby. With this in mind, their entitled nature towards her is somewhat understandable, but by no means excusable. They turned Louise into a bit of a spoiled brat. She was given everything she was asked for, and as a child used to constantly attention seek when the conversation wasn't about her or focused on her. One time at a family gathering she started dancing behind my dad to get his attention. He leaned forward and farted at her, which made her scream and run away. Dad nodded at me with a grin, and said that sorted her out. Still makes me chuckle when I think about it. Moreover, my aunt and uncle would encourage this entitled behavior. They spoke about very minor achievements as if she was a child prodigy. They would drive for hours to take her to places she wanted to go, only to turn back around and drive home if she changed her mind. She was always really spoiled, really entitled, and it was completely their fault. Back during Christmas 2013, I was living in China for my studies. When the family did the big pre-Christmas meetup, they spent the whole time talking about Louise, and didn't ask my dad and brother at all how I was doing, even though I was the other side of the world. Louise also goes through phases of being interested in various things, which would then become the entire topic of family conversation. When she was into dancing and ballet, we had to watch her dance and talk about all the different dancing she could do. When she was doing gymnastics, we had to hear about that and nothing else. When she joined Scouts, yup, same thing. Irrelevant, but due to her entitled spoiled nature, it's almost impossible for her to make friends. So when she joined Scouts, both her parents joined as Scoutmasters to make sure she got the best treatment, and that she wasn't bullied by other kids for being a snob. To be completely honest, her parents ruined her. She was homeschooled because she was bullied and didn't like school. Neither of her parents know how to teach, so she has no education. Now, let's rewind back to Uncle Norman's funeral. I did my best to catch up with family members I hadn't spoken to in years, sharing nice memories of Norman, complimenting the music chosen and talking about how we had the same taste in classical music, the usual sort of thing you would talk about at a funeral. My aunt and uncle, however, would only talk about Louise, the kid that couldn't be bothered to come up. Louise had been learning how to shoot a gun at cadets, because when you have an entitled, emotionally unstable teenager, teaching them how to shoot a gun is a great idea. My aunt the whole time excitedly spoke about how her daughter looked like a little sniper, talking about the clothes she had to wear, how much they had to spend on her outfit, although we later found out this was free, that was just the value of the outfit. We generally just gave nodding responses before trying to turn the conversation back to Norman, back to the ceremony, back to catching up with family members, only for my aunt to interject with more bollocks about Louise. Also worth noting, my aunt was only related to Norman through marrying my uncle, so why she tried to just dominate the funeral I have no idea. I was getting increasingly frustrated, as I often am, by their selfishness, until this absolute gift of a little old lady spoke up. She was a friend of Uncle Norman's, and was sitting next to my aunt. I hadn't met her before, so we hadn't spoken much other than the standard small talk, asking how we knew Norman, etc. Midway through, aunt rambling on about Louise in the usual exaggerated, entitled way she usually did, Norman's friend cleared her throat, and spoke clearly. "I'm sorry to stop you, but who is Louise?" My aunt scoffed, choking on air as if this precious old lady had just told her that she couldn't find the toilet, so she shat in her teapot instead. "Louise is our daughter." Oh. This little old lady then shook her head, before turning around and talking to other friends of Norman's. I couldn't help but laugh. It was amazing to see my aunt absolutely shut down just from one little old lady asking an innocent question. She then shut up, frowning with an absolute foul look on her face before deciding to randomly complain about the food. It didn't take long for her to start rambling about Louise again, but it was great to see that look on her face. I also found out afterwards they spent 10 hours of the day driving, 5 hours going to the funeral, then 5 hours back so they could cook dinner for Louise. We got an overnight hotel, went home the next day. TL. Doctor entitled mother tries to dominate funeral by talking about daughter who didn't attend. Gets shut down when an attendee asks who she's talking about. Thank you. Next. Starting with the basics. This isn't all my story, it is also my friend's, but he said I could post it here. ES. Entitled Stepmom. F. Friend. Me/I. Me. C1. My coach. C2. Friend's coach. FD. Friend's dad. Not entitled. And fair warning, this was a couple months ago, so I don't remember everything word for word. So starting off a little bit of background. I'm on a varsity football team. We're a Christian team with a strict no fighting rule, important later, and we were playing another team from a normal high school in October, which is Cancer Awareness Month. Since it was Cancer Awareness Month, C1 and C2 planned for all the players on both teams would wear sports socks with the color of a cancer ribbon of their choice. I picked out a pair of really cool looking silver sports socks, because my mom had brain cancer. She has been cancer free for 1 year now, which is a gray ribbon, but silver is close enough. I am an offensive lineman and I played pretty well that game. However, we ended up losing 21-17. During the game I noticed that one of the defensive linemen also had grey socks, so after the game I walked over to talk to him and see if he wanted to talk about it. Me and F started talking and he told me his mom had also had brain cancer, but she had died about 6 months ago. He told me that he was having a really tough time. It was especially hard because FD had started dating on week after his F's mom's funeral, which implied some stuff F didn't want to think about. Me and F started to exchange phone numbers, and that's when ES walked up and screeched, "F, why are you wearing grey socks?" F didn't say a thing. "You know that I have breast cancer and that means that you should be wearing pink socks." ES said that in the most entitled and annoying voice I had ever heard. F yelled back, "What do you mean? Your tumor is benign, not deadly and won't spread, but my really mom's tumor killed her. You know that." I stood there shocked at what ES and F said. F began to cry. I felt so bad for him, but then I was filled with rage at what ES said. "Oh my gosh, it has been 6 months, she is dead. Get over it. I am your mom now." I looked at ES and raised my voice. "Big mistake. How could you say that about his moth?" She tried to cut me off, but I began to speak louder. "No, you made him cry. You tried to make his birth mother seem insignificant, and just for a pair of socks." After yelling, C1 took notice and saw me yelling and F crying. He immediately thought I might have gotten into a fight, so he walked over to see what was going on. ES, seeing an opportunity, started to yell at C1 that I hit her son and insulted her. I opened my mouth to protest, but he began bombarding me with the usually kid in trouble stuff like "What were you thinking and apologize right now," that kind of stuff. While this was happening, C2 was what was happening, and he knew F pretty well and knew what was happening in his life. C2 ran over seeing C1, a normally chill guy, and ES screaming at me while F was crying. He ran over and yelled, "What the hell is going on here?" And before anyone else could respond, I began telling my side of the story, and every time someone tried to talk over me I raised my voice over theirs. C2 looked disgusted at what ES did, knowing it was probably true, and began calling FD on his phone. C1, realizing that C2 believed me over ES, C1 started apologizing to me and asked me to try and calm F down. I asked him if there was anything I could do for him, and he asked if we could just move away from ES, who was begging C2 and C1 to not call FD about what just happened. Me and F started talking again at the bleachers, and apparently this isn't the first time that ES had talked about F's mom like that, but the good news is that FD didn't let her do it around F. F had heard ES bad-mouthing his mom around FD, who let her do it. So basically FD just didn't let it happen while F was around. 10 minutes later FD showed up and everyone could hear him yelling at ES, telling her things like she couldn't talk to F like that, and that she needed to find someone else to drive her home tonight. All that kind of stuff. At this point he ran over to F and said, "I am so sorry about what ES said. Let's go out to dinner tonight and talk." After that they left. Me and F kept talking and hanging out after that, and apparently now they are all going to group therapy, which is making things worse, but F thinks that might help his dad leave ES. Thanks for reading, and I hope you got as mad at ES as I did. If you have any questions I am happy to answer. Edit. I know I have only had this post up for a couple of hours, but there have been so many people supporting F and telling us about their own encounter with cancer. I am so sorry for what you all have had to go through. I know how hard it is, but I know that it is different for everyone, and I know I am just a random person on the internet, but I truly hope and pray none of you have to go through it, now or again. Thank you. Next. So, the post won't be too long. This story is my parents and it was some time ago. I just saw some post of EM and something about a restaurant and thought of this, so might as well post it. So there was this EM, sister, son, and daughter who ordered chicken wings, fried rice, blah blah. They ate like 3 wings or SMTH and closed the lid and came up to the counter and said, "Hey, excuse me, you didn't give me all my wings." Now my parents knew this was a straight out lie. Their restaurant only had around 6-7 tables/seats back then, and the counter/cash register faces out into the dining area. My parents laughed their head off at this woman and told her she ate the wings, and they all saw her do so. There were 1 other customer in the restaurant, so in total there were 2 customers. This doesn't end in any dramatic scenes or whatsoever, but yeah, if you have any questions I'll see if I can answer them. Sire.